Dr. Kwabena Donkor is my guest. Doc, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me say, sir, because of common energy, mining, any technicalities be brewum, and the honorable prefers say, young comodiano, ye bedino potokasemu brofumu, esane say, o chrechren simu, sano ewo potokasemua, nentia simuno, ususu se ebuanumum, emane kana semu ye, inti largely young commono, ye bedino eye brofumu, ba me de me de twi be frafra se be ya amanfo nso betimi edi akire na ma try so se ensem ni bi obeka bi ana mu duo no ma breaking it down e de amount na onso wetimi edi enkomo no echi. Doc, welcome back once again.
Thank you.
I hope all is well with you.
By the grace of God, yes.
Were you in Tamale on Saturday?
No.
Why?
Well, we had business on the house floor.
Oh, on Saturday?
On Friday.
On Friday.
And the house closed very late. I missed my flight.
Oh,
and
too
so
bad.
I couldn't go. And all flights were booked, fully booked on Saturday. And at the time we left the chamber of parliament Friday night, I couldn't drive to Tamale.
No way. Wow.
But I followed.
You must have missed a lot.
Well, I followed virtually live all through Saturday.
Okay. Does it take anything away from you, the fact that you were not physically present there?
Well, the euphoria is what you'll miss.
Okay.
Other than that, you are probably even in a better position to observe.
So observing from home, what for you were the highlights of this national campaign launch? Would you say that this is a very successful one?
Absolutely. Absolutely successful.
And what would be your benchmarks for success?
Well, success is the enthusiasm. Success is the mood of the country, the mood of the people, the organizational excellence that was achieved. Yeah, those are the things I look for. And I believe it was very successful.
Are there specifics you want to refer to?
No, the euphoria. The euphoria. Tamale, the city was agog with euphoria. There was an air of expectation.
Okay.
And for me, that is what the best takeaway.
How strategic is Tamale to the NDC?
Well, Tamale is strategic because, for example, all the seats in Tamale City are NDC
seats.
Safe, not just NDC seats, NDC safe seats.
Okay.
That's one. Tamale is also the biggest city in the northern part of the country.
Okay.
And so that is important. And then if you take the 5 northern regions, Tamale is relatively central. So in terms of transportation, in terms of party supporters coming, the centrality of the city was also very good.
But in spite of that, I'm sure that recent numbers pulled by the NPP flag bearer, Dr. Bawumia, in other parts of the northern region, probably even informed this decision to go to Tamale. The MPP appears to be pulling crowds on Dr. Bawumia's campaign. We've seen videos of people trooping to the streets to meet him, very, very huge numbers. Is this part of the reason the NDC seem to be reconnecting with its roots in the northern parts of Ghana?
Well, if you're alluding to a show of strength, then Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia doesn't come anywhere near President John Dramani Mahama. If it's a show of strength.
In terms of the northern part?
In terms of the northern parts. Okay. The 2020 election results are there. If it's in terms of busing people, of course, Mahmoud Bawumia has the whole machinery of state to bus people, whether under duress or under voluntary basis, to wherever he goes.
How can it be under duress?
Haven't we seen students under duress being ordered to stand by the street or go for rallies? We've seen them.
How do you assess the chances of the NDC in this 2024 elections? There seem to be a certain reliance on the fact that there are economic challenges, there are difficulties with the country in terms of economic indicators, and therefore automatically that will translate into victory for the NDC. It appears that is the impression being created.
Well, if anybody gets that impression, is getting the wrong impression.
Really?
Yes. We have crafted policies which will be summarized in our manifesto.
Okay.
And when the manifesto comes out, and mind you, this year, anything in the manifesto has been expanded in a policy document.
Okay.
So we're going to hit the ground running.
So there is a manifesto and there is a policy document.
Policy document. For example, I served on the energy committee of the party. Indeed, I chair the power subsector.
Okay.
So yes, there is the manifesto commitment, but so as not to come and then begin now to fashion our policy because of the nature of the challenge we face. This is going to be very unprecedented. I know the word unprecedented has been used too often in Ghana, but this is going to be a real one.
I see.
For example, in the power sector alone, we have minimum $3 billion debt.
Minimum
$3 billion, because it's growing every month.
This is happy.
And so
you can actually put a maximum number to it now because it keeps growing.
It keeps growing. For example, let me give you a good example. For the IPPs,
Okay.
ECG has agreed, of course, under the supervision of the ministries for energy and finance, that they will pay the IPPs $43 million every month. And then the rest, the difference between the invoice and the $43 million will be rolled forward to to be paid within the next 5 years.
Okay. So that's some form of debt restructuring with
Well,
IPPs.
debt accumulation is being built.
But you've restructured it, haven't you?
No, we haven't.
I mean the government.
The government says they have agreed that, look, we'll pay this amount. That amount is below the invoice price.
Okay.
And that's okay. The difference between the $43 million and the invoice price, we will pay it beginning from 2025. So it just means every month we are adding to the debt stock.
Okay.
So that is a challenge that we cannot wait for, assume the reins of power, and then start working on. At least we have a platform on which to work. If we even used the conservative figure of $3 billion in the power sector, conservative, at least we can fashion out some policies, and that we have done.
Okay. But this is an interesting approach. So what normally we would hear is the launch of a manifesto.
Yes, please.
But you are saying that on this occasion, the NDC is taking a different approach.
Yes.
You are going into policy formulation while in opposition.
Yes.
So that when you come to power, you hit the ground running.
Yes. At least it gives us a launch pad.
This is happy.
But you don't have the benefit of every information to form a policy
Precisely.
now.
That is why I use the word a launch pad.
A launch pad, okay.
Yes. Quite often, with my experience, I've been in the public sector. I've been in gov politics since 1982 with the PNDC. My experience is that you will never know all of the indebtedness.
You will never know.
Yes, until you actually examine the books. Because there are all sorts of clever ways of trying to hide. Let me give you a good example. There was always, before 2020, the NDC figure for indebtedness was always higher than MPP figure. And there were two major issues. Whereas the MPP government, the Kenoforiata and Bawumia, since Bawumia was the chairman of the economic management team, they will always state our debt position minus the ESLA PLC, the Dachin PLC, because they set up special purpose vehicles and claimed that since these were legal entities, legal personas, their debt will not be on central government books. We disagreed at that time, especially under the leadership of the Honorable Dr. Tuforson. We disagreed at that time. When they went to World Bank, the World Bank said, no, this is Kwekwa Anansi accounting, because you are the sole shareholder of those SPVs, special purpose vehicles. The contingent liability rests with government. And the inflows into those special vehicles are from taxes. And so they should be added to the government debt stock.
So how was government treating those SPVs then?
Yeah, they were treating them as private, non-government, and the government was only a guarantor.
Okay.
And so, who knows what other accounting treatments have been made on some of our outstanding liabilities.
So is it the case that as you're forming or formulating policies to be in tandem with the manifesto commitment, you leave room for some of these
we recognize a possible contingency. We recognize the crystallization of something that we were not told or that we didn't know. For example, let me give you another example why we take this position. The Minister of Finance claims they have reached some agreement with the Chamber of IPPs, Independent Power Producers, and that they have restructured their debt. The Chief Executive of the Chamber says government is being economical with the truth. Government should tell the whole story. So there is no signed off agreement yet, and the nature of the restructuring.
But the finance minister announced that 5 IPPs have agreed to this restructuring.
Have you seen the contract document?
You are on the committee.
I'm just.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yes, we haven't either.
Really,
we haven't either. And the chief executive of the chamber
hasn't as well.
No,
says
that is not exactly the story. So what I believe is that yes, there have been some discussions. Yes, there have been some negotiations. Yes, there may be some primary positions.
But the full picture is not clear.
Yes. And so what if we come and they will realize that it is not exactly embellished as it's been presented.
But that can throw your policy out of gear.
And that is why I say we have made room for contingency.
Okay.
We have made room for the unexpected.
Is this approach to manifesto implementation across all sectors, or that is limited to the power sector?
Absolutely. You see, for the first time in the NDC, in terms of policy, a group was set up as far back as 3-4 years ago.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know whether I'm at liberty, but under Professor Danso. And we've been working on policy. We call it the lab.
For
policy
the NDC?
Lab. Yeah, we've been working on
policy lab.
Yes.
And you've been at this since 4 years ago?
Since we lost the election.
Okay.
Since
2016?
No, since 2020. The 2020 election was declared not in our favor. Let me put it that way.
Are you still contesting the 2020 elections?
No, all I'm saying is that it was declared not in our favor. And as
you lost?
As we speak.
Do you agree you lost?
Do you have any gazettes showing the results?
Well, I was just told this afternoon by a communication officer that it has not been gazetted.
Have you? No, so...
But the EC's announcement indicates that the NDC lost the 2020 elections.
Which of the announcements?
The very final announcement that made President Akufo-Addo the president.
How final is final? Legally, it is finalized with a gazette. That hasn't taken place, to the best of my knowledge, except the gazette is there. It's become...
But then NDC is looking on.
Yes, we've moved on. You're
actually looking on.
Yes, no, we are not.
You are.
We are not.
It's a constitutional requirement to have the election results gazetted.
We are not.
2020 up till now, it has not been done. You are not raising concerns. You are looking on.
Where do we have to raise the concerns?
You have IPAC, you have Parliament.
Yes, those concerns have been raised.
Where?
Have been raised at IPAC. They've been raised. They've been raised in the public space. The only body that can enforce that is the court. And
can the Ghanaian public rely on the NDC to get the EC to do what is supposed to be done?
Is it the duty of the NDC, or the duty of the Ghanaian public and the Ghanaian state?
Can all Ghanaians can't ensure that? You are seeking to lead us.
Why?
You are seeking to lead us. Will you take that mantle?
No, is what the fourth estate of the realm
is the media.
Yes, and what's their duty?
Certainly, it's one of what we are doing: advocacy, information, entertainment, education.
What stops you from going to court to enforce that?
Well, in my case, I just heard about it this afternoon. But you have known this information. The NDC, as a public institution, has known this, and you haven't spoken about it.
We have spoken about it. If you haven't heard, we have spoken about it severally. But the most important thing is that by the same Constitution that governs us, is the court that ultimately can compel. But we know the history of NDC going to court. This is my personal opinion.
Okay.
This is not NDC's opinion. Let me make that distinction. My personal opinion is that anything NDC going to court, the court has a disposition against the NDC. That's my personal opinion.
But that's generalization.
Yes. Am I not allowed?
You are allowed, but
yes.
I mean,
yes. On the basis of evidence. How many cases haven't we taken especially to the Supreme Court?
But if your case is bad, it is bad. You go there with lawyers.
Are you saying we are so damp that we will not know which case has a probability of winning? Are you ascribing dampness to us?
I can't ascribe dampness to you.
Precisely.
But it is a technical job. It's a technical matter.
Yes.
The fact that you go to court doesn't mean you have a solid case.
I don't think our lawyers are not technical. And in other jurisdictions, you go to court and lose. Maybe it's a 3-2, a 4-1, depending on the composition of the panel. And where it is even 3-2, you'll find two judges agreeing with your position and advancing arguments why they agree. You may find the three disagreeing with you, and each one advancing argument. It reaches the jurisprudence of the country.
Are you saying that is not...
That does not happen.
Give me examples of cases that have been so dismissed, creating that impression you are creating now.
The first one is the election petition.
What about it looks like what you say?
Please.
Doc.
Please. I don't... If you are not aware, I'll just leave the...
It's not about me being aware.
I'll just leave the Ghanaian public.
I need you to... I need you to help me, my listeners and I understand.
I sincerely don't want to go into a coalition course with the judiciary at this time.
Okay.
And it's not in the interest of the NDC. That is why we've left lying dogs to lie.
But you raised it.
Yes, I raised it. Yes, I raised it as a general argument. You asked why, and I said, look, anytime we've gone to court, we've lost. The court has not ruled in our favor.
And you don't think it's a genuine loss?
I don't think it helps the jurisprudence of this country.
Because you lose on all occasions?
Not just on all occasions, but even the... Look, in this country, somebody is responsible for the composition of a panel.
That's right. The Chief Justice.
Yes. In other jurisdictions, all Supreme Court judges sit. But in our jurisdiction, that is not the practice. And in other jurisdictions, you know the ideological leaning of
Supreme Court justices.
And therefore, you know how they are likely to interpret the law. Remember, the law is not an exact science. Remember that. So you know. But in our country, we have one person choosing who should hear which case, choosing who should chair which panel, and that person will know the ideological disposition of these people. So if I choose 5 like-minded judges who are from this school of legal thought to sit on your case.
Do I get the impression that the NDC appears to be always, I want to be careful the word I use, the NDC appears to have issues with the judiciary anytime you are in opposition?
It's not just anytime we're in opposition.
I remember Dr. Kwabena and the infamous, there are so many ways in killing a cat. It had to do with the judiciary.
Listen.
Yes, sir.
In government, under Professor Mills, we lost far more cases in court than under Kufuor or under Kufuor.
Okay.
Let me say this, and I take responsibility for this statement. It's not an NDC statement.
Right.
The Ghanaian middle and professional classes are instinctively pro-MPP.
Really?
Instinctively.
Instinctively?
Yes, pro-MPP. It takes a lot more for them to turn against MPP.
Why do you think it is so?
Like the media. I won't go further, like the media. The media is largely for MPP, instinctively. It may not, yes.
Have you done a content analysis of media in Ghana to arrive at this conclusion?
Oh, absolutely. We saw 2016. We've been in this Fourth Republic. The media is instinct. You always get a small element, a minority, but instinctively. So it takes a lot of misgovernance, a lot of mismanagement to get the media to shift. As we speak, I personally believe the media has shifted.
Really? Shifted to?
Yeah. They've shifted to the middle from a pro-MPP enthusiastic position to beginning to be neutral and even attacking the wrongdoings of the MPP. That is sin. And of course, the evidence is there. How many media people have not been co-opted into government? In numbers we've never seen in this country before. So it's there.
But you are silent on the other branch of media that ran serious, vociferous advocacy for the NDC. They are there.
I'm not silent.
In the regions. In the cities.
I'm not silent. I said there was always a minority.
Do you consider them in a minority?
Absolutely.
NDC media?
Yes, absolutely. It's not. Absolutely.
Really?
State power was brought even to silence those minority, especially during President Nanado's first term.
You're referring to the Muntie 3 and all of that?
No, not just the individual, even the stations. If 2 stations were owing, they chose to shut one down using executive power and leave the other. Just like the banks.
You think that favoritism informed the banks that were collapsed?
I wouldn't just say favoritism. I would say the wrong use of discretion.
Wrong use of discretion?
Yes.
How do you explain that? Wrong use of discretion. We're dealing with facts.
Yes.
The Bank of Ghana had all the figures. The signs that these banks were going under were clear.
Were they the only banks going under? Were they the only ones with weak balance sheets? As we speak today, the Bank of Ghana itself, does it not have negative equity?
This is Happy FM.
I like the smile on your face, Doc.
Yeah. You see, institutions of states will always have discretion. And that is why the Constitution has a prescription for the use of discretion. When you have to exercise discretion, the Constitution expects you to exercise discretion in a way that is non-discriminatory, etc. But if somebody exercises discretion and is discriminatory, where do you have to run to?
The courts.
The courts. And when the court itself, in your opinion, has not exercised its discretion to favor you, will you further go there?
Interesting thoughts. Let's come back to the issue of power. What is your reading of our status in terms of power sustainability? Early part of this year, we experienced Dumso. We saw a demonstration organized by Yvonne Nelson and a number of people. You experienced the same, in fact, demonstration when you were Minister of Power. Do you think, let me rephrase it, for you, are we out of the woods? The president assured us that indeed we are not in Dumso.
The very day he said that, what happened?
Yeah, but certainly we cannot compare the Dumso we're experiencing in the early part of this year to what we experienced when you were Power Minister. True?
True, because early part of this year, not just early part of this year,
Okay.
this government, we had no business experiencing load shedding at all.
Okay.
We had no business. This was a government that accused us of creating excess capacity.
FM.
And therefore, if assuming without admitting that you inherited excess capacity for which you were complaining, why do you go into it?
But you heard the energy minister. This is not Dumso. This is
What did he say it was?
repairing to fix.
In both scenarios, was there power?
Well, there wasn't power.
Precise.
But
That's
you
enough.
admit
That's
that
enough.
you admit that your Dumso is not the same as this Dumso. You
You
admitted
see,
it.
we inherited a situation from the Kufuor government that not much had been added,
Okay.
and we had the economy growing.
Population increasing.
Population increasing. So that was the situation we inherited. And most importantly, in terms of fuel, we were totally dependent on imported fuel.
That's true.
And for example, when the West African gas pipeline was breached for about 6-7 months, it was outside our control. They never had that situation. They inherited a situation where we had domestic gas. Today, domestic gas accounts for about 80% of our gas
Fuels.
They inherited that, arising out of the back of the work we did in government. So that is one.
Is Ghana Gas feeding the IPPs?
Yes, they do.
All of them.
They do.
Okay.
So that is one. Then two, we had brought in enough install capacity to the extent that they claimed
This is happy.
the capacity was even excessive. So how can you compare the two?
Is that not why they don't blame it on generational capacity and they say that it is rather doomsday? They are putting off to repair. It is not as if we have generational issues.
Is that
that's the position of the
Is
government.
that convincing to you? Do you look? You have a house you are living in.
Yeah.
You have only one house. Do you break down the house and sleep
outside
in order to build
a
the
new
house?
one? No one does that.
Precisely. So it doesn't make sense.
But when it has to do with machines, you have to put off to repair and maintain.
Listen.
It's not the same scenario,
Listen,
is it?
it is.
How so?
Listen. We have what we call the reserve margin.
Okay.
Assuming your consumption, you consume 6 bottles of water a day.
This is happy.
That is why you
FM.
buy 8 bottles.
Okay.
The 2 are your reserve. In your attempt to open with, if you find out that there is something,
If it's
and
unwholesome.
it's unwholesome, you put it aside and then bring in one of the 2 reserve.
Yeah.
And that is why in power economics we have what we call a reserve margin.
Okay. Is that how come you signed a lot of power purchase agreements
You see-
when we didn't need them?
Who said that? Who said we didn't need them?
This government said we didn't need a lot of the power purchasing agreements. Take or pay when we didn't need them.
You see,
Is that not the case?
you see, technical illiteracy often translates into political populism.
Say that again.
Technical illiteracy often translates into political populism.
Explain that.
This is happy.
Assuming we need 100 megawatts today
Okay.
to meet our current demand. Demand is growing by anything between 8 to 12% a year.
Okay.
So next year you wouldn't need 100. You would need more than 100. That is one. Two, you are working with equipment. So if you want to meet today's demand, you will not need just the 100. You will need 120. So that if a plant has to go off for planned maintenance, whether planned or unplanned, there is capacity for it to be seamless.
Okay.
But during the time you are not using the two, somebody has to pay for it.
And that appears to be the problem.
And that has to be paid for as part of the price for having power.
This is
Even when you are not using it.
Precisely.
Because it's your backup.
It's your backup. Do you pay for backup or you don't pay?
How many of such backups did you sign up before leaving office?
Listen.
Because they complain about the quantum, the number.
As for complain, and that was I say, technical illiteracy is often translated into populism. Dangerous populism, let me even qualify that.
Okay.
Dangerous populism. Every year you have a growth. It takes minimum 3 years to sign on to bring a thermal plant from final investment decision to generation. 3 years.
3 years.
3
I
years.
see.
So-
That's almost a term of a government.
Precisely. So when you sign on, you also reserve the right to schedule when it comes on stream.
Oh, okay.
And until it comes on stream, you are not paying for it. And for most developing economies, at the initial stages, you sign take-or-pay contracts.
Okay.
A 330 megawatt combined cycle plant will cost in the region of $500 million. Which investor is going to put $500 million in your economy without an assurance of payment? Will you do that if you had that money?
But how can there be an assurance when you only pay for when it comes on stream? That is no assurance.
Precisely.
What if it never comes on stream?
Precisely. That is why you sign take or pay.
Okay.
You assure. In fact, no bank will even. You can't come to what we call final investment decision
Okay.
if that assurance is
It's
not
not
there.
there.
MPP in office, there were plans we signed for 5 years because there were emergency power plans, the AXA plans. The 5 years have left. And they have extended the 5 years. If we had excess capacity and the contract is lapsed, do you renew?
You're not under any obligation to.
Precisely, but they have. Have they taken out the take or pay? No.
They are still there.
They're still there. Because
But it
that
has
is how
implications if you want to take them out.
Yes.
Are there no implications for taking them out?
No, there are.
But that's breach of contract.
That there
Judgment
are.
debt.
Yeah. So what of the new ones? The new ones also have take or pay
Happy FM.
Signed under.
under them.
Okay.
I'm just giving an example of the AXA plan.
AXA.
Yeah, whose contract had elapsed at which they had renewed. They were not obliged to renew, one, if we had excess capacity. Two, they had the opportunity to sign their take or pay if that's what they wanted. Did they sign take or pay? No.
What did they sign?
They signed take and pay.
Take and pay.
They signed take or pay.
Okay.
They could have signed take
And pay.
and pay.
What's the difference?
The difference is that in one, if you are doing take and pay, you only pay when you take.
Okay.
In take or pay,
Whether you take or you
not.
don't, you pay.
yeah, if you take, of course, you pay for it. If you don't take, you pay.
That's the kind of agreement you left us.
You had to.
Why?
Why?
Why do you
Tema-
tie us to
Tema
that?
LNG,
Okay.
Tema LNG project, that contract that they went to sign.
Is happy
It's take,
FM.
it's take or pay. You see,
You are using that to justify your decision.
industries have their norm. I just asked you a question. Will you put $500 million into a project in another country
And there are no guarantees.
without an assurance of payment? No, will you?
Not at all. No investor will do so.
Precisely. Precisely. For example, if we get the opportunity again, and now we need to expand, for example, you can then deal with existing plants. Can you add a bit more capacity to it? That gives you the opportunity to negotiate under new terms of what they are adding to. And let me tell you one of the saddest stories in Ghana. When we were negotiating the Ameri plant,
Yeah.
This is happy FM.
the whole country, virtually the media, wanted to eat me alive.
We're on your neck.
That, the plants they had gone to do some DEX research and we could have paid 300 or 390 or something for it, and we are paying 510. Oh, the man is sold us or pushed
Because there was a middleman.
us under the bus. There was no middleman.
Sheikh Atum.
He wasn't a middleman.
Who was he?
His company was the one we signed the contract with. So why is he a middleman? He's a contracting party. But what Ghanaians...
No, but is it his company that manufactured the plant? No.
If,
Was it his company?
excuse me. If you go and contract a contractor to build your house, does he manufacture the cement?
No. So what? You
Let's-
gave the contract.
Somebody has a contract and he has to go and source for his material too.
But you could have gone to the market to buy this plant yourself. Did you have to go through Sheikh Atum?
You see, again, this is a good example of collective intellectual laziness.
Really?
Collective.
You mean all Ghanaians are intellectually lazy?
I'm not saying all those
Collective.
Those pushing this argument. Did you have the money to go and buy the plants?
You didn't have.
You didn't have. That is one. The plants are also not on the shelf. They have long. They have long. If you go to sign a contract today, the plant will not be delivered to you. It will take at least 6 months.
Okay.
You are in an emergency. That is one. So the 6 months, assume you had the money, the lead time will have been 6 months or more. That is one. Two, you didn't have the money. So what do you do?
Tell us what you did.
What
This
we did was
is
that
happy
we got a
FM.
company that had the money to bring in the plant, help us solve our problem in the short term, and then we added something unique to it. That look, okay, we'll pay you within 5 years. At the end of the contract, let the plant become ours. We take over the plant, build, own, operate, and transfer.
BOT.
BOT. We did that. Of course, if you're going to do high pitches, do you pay the face value of the, ultimately you pay the face value of the, whether it's a house or a car. If you do work and pay.
You pay
You
more
know
than
what they
that.
could-
You pay more than the face value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have had companies in Ghana.
So he bought it for us, and then later
No,
we
we
paid him.
didn't buy it from
No, he bought it for us.
We contracted him to provide us a plant. 250 megawatts.
But he doesn't
plant.
manufacture plants.
FM.
I asked you a question. If you contract a contractor to build a house for you, does he manufacture cement?
But you know I mean, this is not a house construction, a construction of a house we're talking about. These are these are machines. These are machines manufactured by specific companies. Companies, I'm sure you know them already.
Yeah, look.
Companies you could have contacted them directly, especially when it was so urgent.
If you go to employ a caterer to cater for a party that you have,
Yeah.
does the caterer grow tomatoes and pepper?
No.
No. Good. There are companies in this world who specialize in construction, who specialize in provision of power, etc.
That's true.
They don't manufacture equipment. For example, we're using GE equipment, General Electric equipment. The Ameri units are General Electric.
Okay.
You didn't even have the money to go to General Electric to buy. You didn't have the money. That's the starting point. And assuming you even had the money, there's a lead time. The equipment are not sitting there that I have money, I've paid, so I'm taking. You order, they manufacture for you. And that's what I mean by lead time.
Okay.
The minimum lead time was 6 months. So you didn't have the money. So that option
And time was not on your side.
Time was not on your side. So you contract a company that will come and install for you. You can either buy your energy and go, like AXA.
So those
Let
who
me give you an
say,
example.
so those who say that we actually paid more than we ought to have paid are right because of the unique situation or circumstance Ghana found itself in. We had to pay more than necessary.
They are not.
We didn't have the
They
money.
are not right. They were just.
They are not right.
They are not right.
Okay.
You don't compare a high purchase
To an outright buy.
to an outright buyout and say, "Oh, you have paid more because you could have gotten." Look,
Yours was a high purchase scenario.
yes, you go to Auto Plaza today. You want a Genesis.
Yeah.
If you have money to buy cash, the price is different.
That's true.
If you have to pay by installments, the price will be different.
That's true.
So what's the difference? And that's why I say we are intellectually lazy. We didn't even look at the concept.
You didn't probably also explain the concept well.
People were not prepared to listen.
Would you
We
have?
held press conferences, we explained, we put documents out, and it was just that these people would deal with them. We've had them. And so that is it. Today, let me give you a good example. We've had plants in Ghana. Some have been in this country. Tico has been in this country for almost 20 years.
Okay.
We've been paying for power every year. We've been paying. It has never become ours. Southern Asogli has been around. We've been paying. It's never become ours. Same power. I can give you an example. But within 5 years, the BOT we signed, we became owners of the plant. And the plant has a minimum 20 years useful life left.
That's a car power.
No.
Or which one?
That's
is
Ameri. That's the
Ameri.
one we've just recommissioned in Kumasi. We've taken 6 out of the 10 units to Kumasi at zero price because the Mahama-led attempt was innovative. And quite often, unfortunately, when you are dealing with a set of people who are either hell-bent on finding fault or are intellectually lazy, anything innovative creates its own challenges because it's not the known norm.
Between 2014 and 2017, we're told that former director of Tema Oil Refinery, Asante Kwaku Beko, according to indictment documents from the UK, indicates that between 2014 and 2017, he funneled bribes to Ghanaian officials in exchange for their support for a Turkish energy company's bid to build and operate a power plant in Ghana. You were the minister then. right?
I was the Minister of Power, yes. Not the period, not within the period.
Not within the period.
Yeah, some
Between
of the period.
Okay. So, are you aware of Mr. Beko? Are you aware of his arrest?
I've read it just like you've read it.
Okay. What do you know about this?
Did you find my name in the report?
Your name is not in the report.
Precisely.
But it must have happened around the time you were Power Minister.
Precisely. My name is not in the report. One, we didn't have any contract with him. Apparently, and this is what I came to find, the fund he was working with, the investment fund he was working with, were working with AXA.
Okay.
One of their funds, they were working with AXA. So whatever allegedly took place was between the fund and AXA. If they say Ghanaian officials, well, until they are named, I mean, I am very cautious.
Did you, as Minister of Power, had the occasion to send Ghanaian officials to inspect any power plant in Turkey?
Absolutely, I did.
Is this the trip you're talking about?
Yes, I saw something that they paid Ghanaian officials
$5,000
each.
All expense paid.
Again, it is one of the most stupid things I've ever heard in public life.
This
We have had to, yes.
That's too harsh.
No, I'm not. In fact, it's too moderate. We have what we call factory assessment test. You are going to buy a piece of equipment. Ambulance and they do that always. You're going to buy a certain volume of equipment. They say they are manufacturing them for you. Do you wait for them to bring the equipment to Ghana, and if you are not satisfied, you say, no, I don't want it? So it's a normal commercial arrangement that you will send your team to the factory where it is being manufactured at a certain stage. And it is also normal for the party with the contract to pay to fund that factory inspection. Without that, there is no delivery.
You are the one buying an equipment. You are the one who needs an equipment.
Not necessarily. The seller needs to sell a product.
But you need his product.
Yes, it's a competitive world.
Yes, you are hoping to buy something you need.
Yes.
And the person selling to you takes care of your bills.
Yes, it's normally in the contract as a condition precedent that your team will come and inspect the product at the cost of the seller.
What stage will this be in terms of the arrangement?
Good. In this particular case, this was a slightly used plant.
Okay.
And so as part of the contracting agreement, a team, and I wasn't part of the team, but a technical team.
But you sent the team?
Yes, I take responsibility. A technical team will leave Ghana, go there, go test run the plant for a number of days to satisfy me that that plant is in good condition and that it meets our requirements. So the team, VRA, Ministry of Energy, normally Energy Commission, you compose a team. And it is that person's responsibility, it's in the contract, to buy the air tickets, provide the hotel accommodation, and then per diem.
The fact that it is in the contract does not make it right, does it?
It is a norm. Go look.
It's interesting.
Don't take.
It is interesting that you describe it as a norm.
Don't take what I'm saying.
For instance, the British system and the American system sees it as bribery. Why? Because the company that is offering its product is not the only company that is into that business. The fact that they are paying an all-expense trip to your technical team and giving them $5,000 is recipe for compromise. What report do you think they will bring to you? They will certainly bring a report that will favor the company.
No.
Why not?
No. Why not? The plant, because it was a slightly used plant.
It even makes it more dangerous.
Yes.
A slightly used plant.
And that was the more reason why I needed my technical people to go there.
But you had to fund them.
Please, listen to me. We contracted them for 5 years. The plant, they certified, and I trust the people I sent.
Okay.
They certified that the plant was good. The plant has been in Ghana. The 5 years is done. The 5 years. It still has enough useful life for the MPP government to contract it again.
Your point is that it is technically fit.
Absolutely,
So even if they made any money out of it,
no, I mean,
the fact that it is technically fit justifies it. Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me. What is 5,000? Excuse my language, and don't get me wrong.
Okay.
What is 5,000 in terms of per diem?
Yeah, but it depends on who is taking that money.
No. In terms of per diem, it's officially sanctioned.
For a minister, $5,000 may not be a big deal.
No.
But for a technical man,
Please, when we talk of a technical man, I'm not talking of a Fitat Swami.
I
The team was led by Francis Jatta. I will mention the name. Francis Jatta had worked in the petroleum industry, had worked for President Kufuor, had worked for me.
How many days did they spend in Turkey?
Well, off my head today, I don't know. You asked me. Off my head, I won't remember, but at least they would have spent about 10 days.
10 days for $5,000 per diem, which means that every day $5,000?
No.
What was the arrangement? You said it is in the contract.
The 5,000.
What was the specific arrangement?
Ask your man if he told me he was going to discuss this. I could have brought the contract. It wasn't that. Okay. The 5,000 was for the whole stay there.
It was 5,000 for the entire 10 days.
Yes, for each one of them.
Who are the MOP girls?
This is
They should tell me.
FM.
The indictment document refers to email discussions with Ghanaian officials indicating bribing women within your ministry. And your ministry is the only ministry of that sector ever Christian Ministry of Power. Who, and we're talking about, the report talks about Ministry of Power girls who had to be bribed for useful information. Who are these Ministry of Power girls?
First of all, this is not a fact. It's an allegation.
Okay.
Let's put that right, in the right perspective.
That's fair.
Yes. 2, until they are named, how will I know? You are a minister of power.
You have girls in your ministry.
You have women.
Women. Okay.
We don't employ girls. Women.
I get you.
Yes. More than 100. How will I know? How factual the allegation even is.
They refer to email exchanges.
Well, until I know which individuals. Until I know.
Did you know Asante Belko?
No, I didn't know him. I got to know him later.
Did you ever meet him personally?
No.
Never?
No. I said I got to know him later. After I left office.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So when he became the managing director of TOR, I met him. And then even after I left office, he came as part of an AXA delegation. At that time, I wouldn't know him. I wouldn't know. And it is important we keep this in perspective.
Okay.
Somebody says, I took money from you. I've gone to see government officials. Is the person saying? No, it has happened a number of times. Oh, give me this. I'm going to see this person. How?
But this is not Belko saying.
No.
This is the FBI.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How sure are you that the money actually went to the person?
You can't be sure. But this is not Belko. This is not Asante Belko saying. But this is the FBI indicating their investigations have proven that
Did they talk to me, for example?
They didn't talk to you.
Yes. And I don't think they
But I'm asking you because you were the minister at the time.
No, yes. It's possible that the gentleman told
the FBI.
His employers.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
His employers that I need this amount to go and see this and that person. It's possible. But from our end, and anybody who has been in...
But you confirmed that $5,000 at least was given as per diem by the company. So that one is confirmed.
No,
or that one is an agreement, so that is treated differently.
No. Let me confirm this.
Okay.
That AXA, not Asante Bediatu.
Okay. No Bediatu. Asante Beko.
Not Asante Beko. AXA as part of the contract negotiation, sent our technical team, to go and inspect the plant, get the plant run for a number of days for them to be sure this is a good plant. And they bore the cost of that transportation. That, yes, I can confirm.
Was it open to other companies? Was the opportunity to provide us that machine or that plant opened to other companies to bid?
First of all, there are a few companies
in the sector
who will come and offer.
Okay.
And that was, it was an emergency power purchase agreement.
Okay.
But it went to PPA, it went to cabinet, it went to parliament.
Okay. It satisfied the procurement requirements.
Precisely.
Okay. Very interesting one. Well, many Dr. Kwabena Donkor na Edin Komo ene ewe. Check with your time. 16 gone past 3. Na Nkomo Edin fansem bebre ho. The technical nature of community no twi na ye bibia wo ho. Tena mo de beche me because some me kra me try say me breaking it down a ahwe beje time ni nyina. Entina wo say ye cost street na Edin Komo no brofo mu. Now, Honorable, responding to a number of issues within the power sector and all of that. Honorable, what will be the outlook for the next government in terms of our power sector?
Well,
are we in a good place?
No. Unfortunately, no. You see, we have fundamental issues that we are not addressing.
Okay.
Arising out of excessive partisanship. In the power sector, your payables of ECG, of Gridco, of VRA, of Bui Power, the payables are dollar denominated.
Happy FM.
Your receivables are CD denominated. When you have such an excessive depreciation of the CD, it will have serious ripple effects on your financial position. So as we speak, we are under recovering cost. If you put in 100 CDs and you get 90 CDs, you are under recovering cost.
You have to hit 100 or beyond.
100 and more. If you hit 100, how do you pay for your admin expenses?
You're virtually breaking even. No extra.
You are not breaking even because you haven't factored in your administrative cost.
Okay.
And that is the challenge of the power sector. If the CD was stable, then of course it gives you a lot of room because the tariff would then be stable.
Okay.
But the tariff is playing catch up. Then again, the state is the sole shareholder of ECG, for example.
That's right.
ECG is losing 30% of the power they purchase.
It has never improved.
30%.
The situation of power loss has never improved.
So which product will you buy? You buy a product for 100 CDs, and even before you sell,
about 70 is gone.
30 is gone. So you now have 70
left
to pay for the 100. What markup will you be given to cover that discrepancy?
And that is a major contribution to
yes. So those are the issues I will prefer that we discuss as a people.
What steps did you take towards reducing the losses of ECG while you were Minister of Power?
At the time I left, ECG's losses were at about 21%.
This is Happy
They've ballooned since I've left.
What did you do? Are there specific things?
Yes, first of all, you see, we went to sign a compact. In fact, that was the reason why President Atamils and Vice President Mahama directed that the compact should be used to address the challenges of distribution, which is basically ECG distribution. Because you are the sole shareholder. Today, technology is there to reduce losses, but technology will involve serious investment.
That's true.
Do you have the money to invest?
Obviously not.
Not. So you have to, because if you take the ECG losses, the can be broken into two.
Okay.
There are the technical losses, and then there are the commercial losses. The technical losses, as you use obsolete equipment, as you wheel power over distances,
Is happy.
as your transformers get older and outmoded and past their sell-by date, their level of efficiency reduces.
Okay.
So your losses increase. And the solution to that is investment. Replace the transformers, replace your cables, replace, your boundary meters. Let me give you a good example that most Ghanaians can associate with.
Okay.
Ordinarily, if you take the meter, electricity meter in your house, it should be calibrated every 5 years or replaced.
Okay.
There are meters people have used for 20 years.
That's true. They are certainly not efficient now.
Yes, and so those meters are generally under recording.
Okay.
So if they remove it today, replace it with a brand new meter, you see, hey, that's what this meter, it runs like Usain Bolt. It's just because previously your meter was under reading.
Okay. So that would be what, commercial loss to ECG?
Yes, that's a commercial loss.
Okay.
That is one. Then there is plain thievery, Ghanaian stealing power.
Okay. That is clear and real as well.
People steal power, illegal connection by factories, by businesses, by individuals. It's plain thievery. There's no more decorous word I can use than plain thievery. So there is but thievery can be minimized with technology. But technology will also need investment.
We haven't done much as a country to strengthen ECG. The proposal over the years have been private interests. We attempted it with PDS. It went very bad.
It went bad because of greed.
Because of greed.
Yeah, and I'll say,
would it have been a good approach?
Yes. We had two options under the American Compact. Either privatization of ECG or concession.
Okay.
The concession system.
And what would be the difference?
I went to cabinet and I proposed the concession system.
Okay.
Privatization would mean actually selling shares in ECG.
Okay.
Others taking equity in ECG. Concession means leasing part of the operations.
Happy.
But ECG will still own 100% of everything.
Okay.
So we took the concession option to cabinet. Cabinet approved. We brought to parliament. Blah blah blah. At that time, the foreign investor, you see, Compact. The Americans were to bring Millennium Corporation was to bring in $500 million.
Okay.
The investor was also to bring in $500 million. So with $1 billion put into ECG, put into the distribution networks, transformers, substations, do that, we would have seen vast improvement.
So what part of ECG were you giving out on concession?
It's the operation.
The operation.
Not the asset.
Okay.
Then, just before we concluded that, Ghanaians decided to kick us out. And they brought in another
MPP.
group. MPP came. In the concession, our proposer agreed with Millennium Challenge Corporation, MEDA, was that in that concession, the foreign company could have 80% equity in that concession.
Okay.
A Ghanaian company could have minimum 20%.
Okay.
Because a foreign company was to bring in the $500 million. They were to bring in their know-how.
Okay.
And also to bring in the brand. MPP came, ill-advised. They decided to change. The Ghanaian company must have 51% shares and the foreign company 49%. So all the big boys who had lined up and who had gone through all the pulled out. Because once you become a minority shareholder, you've lost boardroom control. And then you are expected to bring $500 million to invest when you don't have boardroom control.
This is happy.
So and that's why I say it's greed. And then they quickly cobbled something together and called it PDS with the Filipino. And then the challenge came. PDS did not even meet the guarantee that was needed. PDS, they virtually breached all the rules for PDS. And let me say this, the positive thing, even for PDS, they did, well, within the short time they were in charge, receivables, payment improved, their collection from customers improved. Let me give them that credit. And port reporting also improved.
What is port reporting?
For example,
fault reporting.
Yes,
okay.
you have a fault report.
Yeah.
The time they get you improved.
Okay.
Those things improved. And
so actually PDS brought in some level of efficiency
for
in
the short
terms of
period they
sales
were there. Yes.
And fault reporting.
Yes. They brought in, it improved.
Okay.
But nowhere near what would have been if we had gone through
the concession,
the proper thing.
Okay.
Then between the shareholders of PDS and whoever their sponsors were, a fight broke out. And so that was also terminated. And that's why I say it's greed.
Should we go back to the concession approach to empowering ECG? Or you think the circumstances have changed now?
ECG as it is today, ECG's losses in 2022 were over 10 billion cedis losses. We are
10 billion?
Yes.
This is not sustainable.
Absolutely. And so the NDC, if the people of Ghana vote us into power, at least at our level, at the policy level, the work we have done, we are coming out with some solutions that will address the short-term challenges of collection.
Okay.
You see, if you sell and you are not able to collect, there's a challenge.
Okay.
As to whether the tariff administration is another business. If the CD becomes more stable, we'll have a bit more stability in our tariff administration.
Okay. But you can't promise that as a party, stability of the CD. Can the NDC promise us?
What I can say, and I'm not on the NDC Finance Committee, that is the caveat. But what I can say is that the NDC, at the macroeconomic level, will do better, will perform better.
But because of your limitation, you can't stick your neck out to say that the NDC will give us a more stable exchange rate.
Oh, no, that's what I've just said. We will do better.
You do better.
It will do better than...
That's vague.
Yes.
It could just be just a point difference.
It's still better.
Ghanaians want the best.
Of course. So first of all, Ghanaians have to vote for the better party and then demand from that party better performance.
What do you make of a lithium mining agreement? Is this, does it reflect what the minister says that indeed this is a marked improvement in terms of mining leases?
Well, it depends on which school. If you are, which school you are coming from. If you are from the leftist school, your response will be different. And then we are from the righty school. If it's
what school are you from?
If it's business as usual.
Okay.
If it's business as usual, then what the minister said is factually correct. If it's business as usual.
So this is business as usual.
Listen to me. Let me. If it's business as usual, what the minister said is correct. That the terms nominally are better. If it's business as usual. If we want a different model
This is Happy
that will
FM.
put more value and use lithium as a multiplier in the Ghanaian economy, then that model, then what the minister said, we can do better. So it depends on the model.
This agreement came to your committee, right?
Yes. But it comes under a certain law.
What
So on the basis
does
of
that
the,
limit you?
yeah, on the basis of the mineral and mining law, yes, then it's an improvement.
What
But
argument
there
did
is
you make?
policy.
What argument did you make on behalf of the people of PRU East and Ghana before your committee when this lithium agreement came? What was your position?
By the way, the agreement has not been ratified yet.
Okay.
Let's get that right.
I want to, at the committee level, I mean.
No. There were differences in opinion.
Okay.
First of all, in law or agreements emanate from policy. What is the government's policy? What is the government's direction? Let me also throw in this. The price for lithium on the world market has fallen by about 60% within the last 4 years.
Okay.
Let's also recognize that.
Why would that happen when lithium appears to be a major global raw material?
No, other new materials have been discovered
Okay.
to make batteries.
Okay.
And initially,
And they are more efficient than lithium.
yes.
Okay.
And not just that, a lot more lithium mines or lithium deposits have been discovered
Elsewhere. Apart from Ghana.
across the world.
Okay.
Across the world, and the forces of demand and supply will also play a role. However, just like clay, we have clay in Ghana.
This is
Depending on what we want to do with clay. If we want to use clay for blocks, the approach will be different.
Okay.
If we want to use clay for ceramics, the approach will be different. So what the challenge we have here is policy.
Okay.
What is our national policy on minerals? What is our national policy
Do we have?
on minerals?
Do we have?
Well, we have law, so we must have policy. However, is that adequate for what we want to do?
But are laws policies in themselves?
No, laws emanate from policy.
So
laws
I
are
asked you.
not-
So I asked you a direct question. Do we have the policy as you question?
Policy is always updated, but I think what we have today needs to be updated.
Okay. It's old school.
It
is not relevant.
FM.
depending on, you see, development, and development is my first love. Development starts from the mind. What is it that we want to do as a nation? Let me give you an example let me use India and China, and then I will use Singapore. India and China decided to close off their commercial space to allow indigenous companies to grow to some level before opening up. Are we prepared to do that? In the Ghanaian polity, are we prepared to do that? Do we have the nerve to do that?
Don't we?
I don't think so. Other than we will not be importing toothpick.
That is a weakness on the part of leadership, which you all share in.
Again, it's only half of the story. Leadership reflects the values of the society,
This
of the
is
people.
Happy FM.
So we are same as our leaders.
Precisely. Because we elect people who represent our values. Unfortunately, look, in the last district assembly election, in my district, assemblymen were telling me that when they went house to house to campaign, people were asking them, what did you bring? The job is unpaid. So if you go and elect people because of what they brought, what values are you espousing?
But I'm sure.
I'm not saying leaders are not responsible.
Yeah,
I'm not absorbing.
but I'm
it's
sure-
a collective
Yes.
fault we have.
But I'm sure that is as a result of what the political class have fed the people over the years. Disappointment. And they see you, the political class, living fat, enjoying all the largesse of public office, and all of that. So what do you think they do?
Let me give you.
I made this man an MP, and today he's doing so well. But my road is still bad.
Let me tell you.
What do you think that constituency?
Let me tell you something. I have become poorer for being an MP.
Really?
Yes. And there are a number of MPs who have become poorer. Let me give you a specific example.
I'm all ears.
I was Deputy Minister for Energy in charge of petroleum under Professor Mills. Professor Mills removed me. But I knew that he had asked me to go and create a petroleum commission.
Okay.
The public didn't know that. Within a month of leaving the ministry as deputy minister, I got an offer to be a country representative for an oil company in charge of West Africa for $30,000 a month.
That was juicy.
Yes.
You didn't go for it?
I didn't go because Professor Mills had told me, and I'm far more committed to Ghana than to money.
Okay.
So I waited and then went to establish the Petroleum Commission.
This is Happy FM.
So it is not, I'm not saying the political class is not responsible. But we have not, some of us could have been making far more money outside politics. You find people with basically no school certificate in recent times. Somebody is given a $34 million contract to supply spare parts. What competence does that person possess? And on that contract, that person will make at least $10 million. That person is not a politician. She's not a politician.
But the political class creates such environment for people.
So it is not just, we have a collective responsibility. We have a collective shortcoming until we accept that we elect people who reflect our values, and that the change must begin with us as well as our leaders. We are not going anywhere. We'll be running in circles.
How do you assess this parliament you are part of? This is a hang parliament.
Yes.
Ghanaians had huge expectations of this parliament. If you listen to civil society, at the time the parliament was sworn in, they had high hopes.
Yes.
That if all goes well, this parliament should be able to deliver to the people of Ghana the best in terms of representation. Are you impressed with what you have used the hang parliament for?
We could have done far better. We could have done better. But the constraints, are our party structures.
Party structures.
Yes.
Tell me about
For
that.
example, when there's a party position and there's a 3-line whip, and you disobey the party position, the party can withdraw its whip on you. And by constitution, you have to leave parliament.
So then there will be a by-election.
You come to parliament on the ticket of the party. The party gives you a letter to go to electoral commission to be registered,
but upon becoming a member of parliament, you represent the entirety of the constituency.
Yes, but the party can still withdraw that letter. So it's one of the constitutional amendments we should be looking at. The structural problems. Yes, we've operated the constitution for 30 years. It has served us well, but we have seen faults with it.
But how does that work when an individual can go to parliament on his own accord?
Yes.
Without going through a political party?
Precisely.
Yet you go on the ticket of a party and there are these constraints hanging on you.
How many independents are in parliament?
Certainly
just
one.
Yes.
Even that, the circumstances are clear. But the point is that the constitutional arrangement is such that
it's what we should look at again.
You ought to be free when you are representing the people and not to be on the apron strings of your political party. Because you represent a people.
Yeah, but the constitution itself creates conditions that you are sponsored by the party, and if the party, you can't cross carpet. Yes. So if you came in as NDC MP, you can't become an independent MP.
No way.
Let alone go to MPP or vice versa.
But if you came in as an independent, you can choose where to sit.
No, even then you can caucus with one. You cannot join.
Okay.
Yeah, they are different.
You can't join
the independent MP member of parliament cannot join MPP as an MPP MP. but he can caucus with them.
Okay.
That's different.
Okay.
So, yes, we were all excited, but we all forgot the party whips, that the two parties held these swords over our heads.
This is Happy FM.
Is that unseen hand that worked in instances of certain taxes and levies passed in Parliament? Because one would have thought that today the minority is lamenting over taxes like COVID-19 levy.
Yeah.
We're lamenting over e-levy. We're lamenting over taxes, that sanitation levy and all of that. Some which even appear to be multiple taxation.
Yeah. Yes, but they've been...
And you had the opportunity in Parliament to kick out these levies with your numbers.
Ghanaians gave us 138, 137. And in Parliament, we win by a simple majority. Those are not entrenched.
You didn't put up a strong fight for the people of Ghana, did you?
Why? We got all our votes, but they were more than us by one.
In some instances, you had to stage a walkout.
Yes, because
This is
if the
Happy
three-line whip is
FM.
drawn there, and they are 138, you are 137, you just need a simple majority. So notwithstanding the arguments you marshal, notwithstanding the force of your argument, if they get all their 138 members in the chamber, you've lost.
If one describes this hang Parliament as disappointing, what would be your response?
I would say that would be too harsh. We forced them to moderate certain things. If you take even the e-levy, for example, we were totally against it. Eventually, when they saw the level of resistance, they brought the figure
No.
down. We would have preferred not to have it at all.
But if you could work to bring the figure down, you could have asked for more.
No, ultimately, it was not just us, but it was civil society. You see, where were Ghanaians when they were... Excuse me.
You even went ahead to approve appointees you spoke against. With your numbers, you still did so.
I thought we were just talking about...
I'm talking about Parliament, the hang Parliament, giving instances where...
Yes. Secret ballot. The power of secret ballot.
That's also a limitation.
It's a limitation, but it's also good. It has its positive side, it has its low. You see, but let me also now ask you, where is the media today? Where are Ghanaians today? When we were introducing VAT, the Kumi Precons, wasn't it by Parliament?
No.
The streets. So where are the streets today?
So what? You're shaking your responsibility.
I am not shaking.
And throwing it at us.
I'm not shaking.
We should fight for ourselves.
It's a collective responsibility. There is a limit to what MPs can do.
That we spend on you to do more for us.
Excuse me. There's a limit to what MPs can do with 137 against 138. We will articulate all the aspirations. But at the end of the day, Kenya, the recent Kenya example, it wasn't in Parliament. The streets spoke. The streets spoke.
And we may get there.
No, if the streets are speaking for the good of the country, I'm all for it.
But you may be victims if the streets speak the way the Kenyan youth spoke.
You see, the collective is always more important than the individual.
Okay.
The collective is always more important than the individual. Why have the streets gone quiet?
Recently,
if NDC was in power, the streets and doing same, the streets will have...
It comes back to the point you earlier made, that majority of the middle class appear to favor the NPP than the NDC.
Yes, they are instinctively pro-MPP.
But that signifies a problem with your party, the NDC. Why do you think majority of the middle class are instinctively pro-NPP and not pro-NDC? What is fundamentally wrong with the NDC? Of
course, I will not discount our antecedents.
Okay.
historical antecedents. We came out of a revolution, and some people will still have issues
With that.
with that. But more importantly, the Ghanaian middle class, especially with our level of poverty, has a better organizing ability than the working class.
Okay.
Especially when you are still operating a near peasant economy,
This
an
is
informal
Happy
economy.
FM.
That's an interesting way of describing Ghana's economy, a near peasant economy.
Absolutely.
That is very far away from a formal economy.
Yes.
Very far away.
Yeah. If you look at our employment records, how many people are in the informal sector? They far outnumber those in the formal sector. If you look at the composition of our export trade, in 1921, 3 commodities accounted for about 90% of all our export earnings: cocoa, timber, gold. 2023, 3 commodities account for over 70% of our export earnings: cocoa, gold, crude oil. And the similarity is that both are exported in their near raw state.
Yeah.
So what has really changed?
Nothing. What does the NDC promise in terms of value addition to our raw materials?
Wait for our manifesto.
This is Happy
Give me a
FM.
hint. I would appreciate a hint.
No, we will look at agricultural value addition. They are likely to be processing zones.
Okay.
We will look at that.
If somebody says, I mean, and I'm sure you hear this being a politician, that John Mahama is not coming to do anything new. Whatever you say you want to do, you had the opportunity to. What is that guarantee that that which you say you will do, you will indeed?
First of all, John Mahama did not introduce COVID tax. And long after COVID, the tax is still there. John Mahama did not promise that he will move the economy from taxation to
This is Happy
production.
FM.
John Mahama did not say we are a proud people who will never go to IMF. But we went. John Mahama did not say we're going to win ourselves off borrowing. And today we've borrowed at record levels never seen in the annals of Ghana's political history. So John Mahama, when times were tough, John Mahama said times were tough. John Mahama did not promise what he didn't deliver. John Mahama's progress might have been slow, but he kept his word. Look at infrastructure, productive infrastructure.
This is Happy FM.
And having been out of power for 8 years, not just John Mahama, the NDC has learnt a few things. The NDC is better prepared. The NDC is better motivated because it is now so clear that the salvation of Ghana within the current political arrangement lies with the NDC. Within the current political arrangement, let me emphasize that, where we have a near two-party state, the NDC is more sensitive to the plight of the people. And the NDC represents the weaklings, represents the unconnected, represents the youth, and better represents even the unborn.
This is Happy FM. Kwabena.
98.9 FM Epahwa Daben Jumedi and my guest and area a Dr. Kwabena Donkor or a member of parliament Emma PRU East Constituency on the ticket of the NDC. Certainly in 2024 you won't be on the ballot as a parliamentary candidate because of your primaries. But again I feel parliament.
Oh, there are positive sides to parliament, the learning opportunities for those who want to learn. The consensus that sometimes we reach, particularly at committee.
Okay.
You see, the difficult thing about parliament is that about 70% of the work, if not more, of parliament is done at committees. At that point, there is a lot of cross-fertilization of ideas.
Okay.
The plenary
This is Happy FM.
is not the same. Let me
Okay.
choose my words carefully. The plenary is not the same. So I will miss the committee level work.
You miss the committee level
work. That's where the hard work takes place. What I will not miss are all the other things.
Like what?
Like being insulted almost on a daily basis.
Does that get to you?
Oh, it does. You are human. You are human.
But I thought as politicians you develop a thick skin.
You see, some of us did not start out as politicians. We started as nationalists. When we joined the PNDC, we really believed we could change the world. So this became a progression by default. And for me, I still look for a Ghana where meritocracy,
This is
a Ghana where nationalism will underpin our politics, a Ghana where integrity will matter, a Ghana where we can be creative, use our intellectual ability to resolve problems, a Ghana where we can carry everyone along. That is the Ghana I look for.
And then I for Sema Olusu primacy.
Well, the delegates of PRU East chose somebody else, and I think that's enough. The NDC delegates.
Omani and Joe representation
Well, that is left for posterity.
Okay. And then I wait to your constituency. Since 2013,
Well,
I'm sure you've made an impact.
Well, at least I brought the name of PRU East to the mainstream.
Is that an achievement?
Well, it depends on who is looking at it.
You consider that as an achievement?
It depends.
Anyone could be an improvist.
It depends.
This
You see, it's not about me. That is why I am hesitant to answer. I am not the type who wants to speak about himself.
Okay.
It's about the collective.
You've been stressing on the collective.
Yeah, for me, as individuals, we are nothing. Look, I went to school in the University of Bristol with people from various nationalities. And then you realize that people will disrespect you because your country is underdeveloped. Intellectually, you are smarter than him. I lectured at the University of Bristol. I went to Lancaster to do my management studies. You realize these are not your equals. But because you come from a poor country, you are disrespected. So no matter what you achieve as an individual, as long as your country does not develop, your country remains undeveloped, you will be disrespected.
This is Happy.
We got our independence before Singapore.
Okay.
We're at about the same stage as Malaysia. In fact, at independence, South Korea, we're at par. Today we go to them for loans.
Yeah.
Would people respect us?
But what is significant to Munyina is at least another for Republic Kenya, a very stable political environment. NPP ni NDC with the Ghana more. When Timian Peja Ghana and do baby was say edu. Obejiatum.
No. We've had our successes. We've had our successes. Yeah, we've had our failures. I acknowledge our failure. We've also had our successes. I went for a conference in...
But your successes are enough to give us global respect.
Yeah, I went for a conference in Houston, an oil conference.
Okay.
And then I met...
Is happy.
There was the African Chamber, one of the... Somebody asked me, you Ghanaians, so are you saying a government in power, come on 100,000 votes, they couldn't steal? This was the Tamils victory.
Era.
May his soul rest in peace. That common 100,000 votes, you couldn't steal.
Oh,
Oh yes,
from a different, from another African country.
African countries. And somebody said, in their country, government in power.
You see that?
Impossible. So at least at that day, I felt very proud that at least we are doing something different. But since then, we have retrogressed, especially under this president. I am an NDC person. I had some expectation
Okay.
that at least you will lift the country up to a certain level for us to come and continue. But when you seem to have retrogressed in a number of areas, as a Ghanaian, I'm sad. Even as an NDC person, I am sad because it makes the work far more difficult. The lower you are in the pit, the more difficult whoever is trying to bring you out of the pit will go through.
The next government will experience Dumsana.
I don't want to be I'm not trying to be a prophet, but I see challenges in the power sector and the need for a complete radical restructuring.
Challenges a bit me Dumsa baby.
Well, depends on how we handle it. For example,
NDC we
For
need
example-
could Dumso mubim.
it depends. It depends.
It depends on what.
It depends on the element. I don't expect us to go back to load shedding with under an NDC regime. I don't expect us to go.
Is happy.
I don't expect us to go to load shedding under NDC regime. But in life, you never say never. My prognosis is that the NDC, the next NDC regime, will have the courage to take the decisions that may be unpopular. One of the things that we see in the energy or power sector is that as a people, we are extremely wasteful. We are extremely wasteful of power.
It was still in what you know.
We are extremely wasteful. And so the next NDC government will have to introduce some measures. For example,
Mamem Sumema example as another example naba. Oya Minister of Power, John Mahama as president. Eka say ministries, departments and agencies ebe use prepaid meters. Besine, a good number of MMDAs are still using old meters.
Is happy.
well, when I was Minister of Power in 2015, I put the Ministry of Power on prepaid,
But
and
not
it's
to-
still on prepaid.
But you could have done that for other ministries because you're the Minister
No.
of Power.
Well, I stayed for a year.
How-
Don't forget. People
How
tend
much
to-
of a work and to say, oh, you're Minister of Power?
I know the Ministry of Finance is on prepaid today. I know a number of ministries are on prepaid today. But I also know that not all ministries.
But we should be able to.
We should. And look, one of the most wasteful places in terms of power is Parliament.
Sir?
And I've said it.
No waste power.
I've said it. It's an attitude problem. It's an investment problem. For example, you go to corridors. There's no one the lights are on. It just takes a little investment in sensor,
Yeah. Motion sensor lights.
motion sensor lights.
Udu now so uchemo na dum.
This is
Ultimately, you will save power. But again, it's the mindset. Are we prepared to invest?
Doc, how did you solve them so?
We solved load shedding. I won't say I. We. Because
you
it was
as a government, as a collective government.
Because it's a collective.
Okay.
We had the support of the president. We had the support of the technical people.
Most of all,
ECG. First of all, at that time, our biggest challenge was capacity.
Okay. We
didn't have enough generating capacity. That will resolve because, you see, once you have growth on an annual basis, and this is so important, you will constantly have to be on your toes. The capacity we built in 2015 was more than adequate for 2015-2016 because we put in a redundancy, a reserve margin. But if you go to sleep on the job, 3 years, 4 years, it will not be enough.
It is saying I'm so.
Well, we brought in additional generating plants. We brought in policy that favored efficiency. For example, if you take the TICO retrofit, if you take TAPCO, we brought in combined cycle plants.
What is say President Kufuor say or no be solve udum so what that? What
Well, just that he's been misinformed.
Misinformed?
Yes. You cannot have excess capacity on one hand, and on the other hand, you say you solved it. You see, when it comes to excess capacity charge, you only pay when the
excess capacity.
Excuse me. You only pay when the plant is available and it's running. So there are contradictions. You cannot have the negative and the positive as one. If you say we created excess capacity for you and that was a challenge, then it means you had more power than you needed. And if you had more power than you needed, then it can't be that you solved the load shedding problem. You can't eat your cake and have it. And it is a dynamism. Let's not forget that. And that the solution yesterday will not be the solution tomorrow because of growth. So if we resolved it yesterday and you go to sleep, tomorrow you will face it.
How many years? Excess capacity na muja.
We didn't leave excess capacity. Let me tell you something else.
You didn't leave excess capacity.
Let me tell you something else. Under Professor Mills and John Mahama, it was state policy that we should become a major exporter of power. A major exporter of power. So if we created the conditions and power availability to be exported, and you come and you don't follow up to increase your exports, you turn around to blame us. We are sitting bang in the middle of the West African sub-region. We have the West Africa power pool arrangement. It's almost equidistant to the east and to the west. We sit right in the middle, the West African power pool. We should be exporting far more power than we are doing today.
Now then, also excess capacity.
The power.
But you made that point severally this afternoon.
First of all, we generated enough to have a reserve margin. If it's a reserve margin that we are calling excess, then it's technically wrong.
Okay.
We left enough to increase our exports. If we did not increase the exports, then we cannot be blamed. That is what. So what they call excess capacity is a reserve margin. It's an opportunity to export that they went to sleep on. Should I be blamed?
Dr. Kwabena Donkor, Yebabewie, Speaker of Parliament, who the leadership was saying. Now, no, a colleague, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak said, as a speaker, why are you a tyrant, Kakra? As a dictatorship will be burning.
I have no opinion on that.
Why not?
Because I don't want to.
But you sit under the leadership of the speaker. Do you enjoy him?
We judge people differently.
So how do you judge him?
I want that to be personal.
My listeners are interested.
They see him on TV. They can also make up their opinions.
What's your opinion of him?
It's personal. It's personal. I will let each one assess him.
Nano Osake said he also MP. Was that cool?
What do you mean by he sacked?
Yeah, that's a word he actually used.
No. What do you mean?
Opamoni free chamber name.
Did he ask him to walk out or he sacked him from Parliament?
He sacked him from the chamber.
Was he in Parliament the next day?
He was.
Okay. So
he sacked him from the chamber. From the chamber.
He asked him to walk out.
Okay.
For a day.
Opamoni free chamber ni mana.
He asked him to walk out.
I said just wapamono.
He walk out. We're speaking English. You perfectly understand.
If I walk somebody out of the studio,
yes,
my permanent free studio
for the session, for the day.
Yeah, so it happened.
Yes.
Me can't say what permanent from Parliament. So only sell to me
no. You see, the speaker or whoever is presiding can always, subject to some
standing orders,
conditions in our standing orders, ask you to leave the chamber.
And I mean, Busa said, Net was saying, okay, it may sit within your standing orders, but anka ubefane saying.
Ordinarily, nobody will be happy being asked to walk out, just as even in school, in primary school.
Yeah.
A teacher will always ask me to walk out.
I don't know Busa questions, Rodwana.
So, and you won't be happy. But sometimes you then go and reflect and say, okay, this was what caused that. So next time, okay, I will handle things differently. And it's a learning process for all of us.
That's true. NDC be retaining PRU Easter Kunyana.
NDC will win the next election.
NDC be retaining PRU Easter Kunyano.
NDC will win the next election.
Presidential.
The next election and hold down all its parliamentary seats.
Including PRU East.
All means all.
And then I'm person will become PRU East as honorable. Issues or Hana.
There are issues in every constituency and in every home. There are issues.
Is it
but it depends on the type of issues and how the issues are addressed.
Ulusu primary cinema adopted this approach and I said and it has always been so say you don't want to talk about your constituency.
I don't. You see, I hate self aggrandizement. I hate it. Let others judge your performance.
Your campaign ama NDC candidate na or PRU East no. Your campaign man.
I'm campaigning for NDC.
When na ko campaign da? Candidate. Momo candidate no. NDC candidate in PRU East. When na ko campaign da?
No candidate has been filed yet.
Okay.
With the AC.
But you have a parliamentary candidate. Our we need primaries.
No one is a parliamentary candidate yet.
Okay, so you have a parliamentary. You have a hopeful. We need NDC primaries. What is your campaign?
I've just told you we haven't filed with the Electoral Commission.
But what your campaign? I'm not winning your primaries and won't file a your campaign.
I've told you we have not filed with the Electoral Commission. If we file for with the Electoral Commission, I'll campaign for my party's candidate.
Dr. Kwabena Donkor, Ediana Ghana from Kaiwo as you exit this parliament.
Oh, I don't want to be remembered.
Why?
There are more important things for Ghana to remember. The interest of the collective must always be paramount. It's not about self, it's about Ghana. My desire to see Ghana develop, my desire is to see Ghana emerge as the black star of Africa, and my desire is to see Ghana straddle the world stage in full color.
Dr. Kwabena Donkor, I am grateful for your time this afternoon.